Hello everybody. Hopefully you can hear me and see me okay. This is our webinar on what we look for in our application process, and also giving you an opportunity to learn a bit more about life at BDO. We've got some really great trainees on the call, and also myself and Lucy, who are part of the early and careers team here at BDO. So just a quick introduction to myself. My name's Kirsty and I'm an early careers advisor here at BDO. I look after the Midlands recruitment and also TRA, which you'll hear a bit more about further on in the call. Just hand over to Lucy, who's one of the managers in the team, to introduce herself as well.
Perfect, thanks Kirsty. Hi all, good afternoon. My name is Lucy Safi and I'm an assistant manager in the early careers team here at BDO. So Kirsty and I will take you through a bit more about BDO and our application process, and then we will open the floor for questions. So please do think of the types of questions you want to ask as we go through the slides, and start popping them in the chat, and we'll get to them after the slides. But really looking forward to hearing some of your questions this afternoon. Shall I get started, Kirsty?
Yeah, go for it.
Perfect. So for those of you who haven't heard of BDO before, this slide is just to outline who we are and what we do. So BDO delivers assurance, tax and financial advisory services to clients throughout the country and across the globe. So this map is obviously just focusing on the UK. So you can see lots of our different offices, and our trainees on the call today will give you an overview of the office that they belong to, or hubs as we call them here at BDO. So we offer numerous industry specific practices, world-class resources and an unparalleled commitment to meeting our clients' needs. And we're really proud to say here at BDO that 95% of our clients would recommend us in our 18 offices, and we've got just over 7,000 staff now, so we have rapidly grown over the last few years, and we've got around 430 partners. Moving on to the next slide, just to show you some of our clients. So hopefully you'll be familiar with some of these audited entities or clients on the screen. So some of them more familiar than others, Hotel Chocolate being one of my faves. But you'll see HSBC, Barclays, Kurt Geiger, BT, and lots of famous names there, which is really interesting. Hopefully some of our trainers will be able to give us an insight into some of the audited entities or clients that they've been working with. These are our BDO values. So those of you that have heard of BDO before or have done any research into us might know a bit about our values, because they're really important to us here at BDO. So they were actually created by employees here. So focus groups were held and we were asked for our opinion on what we wanted our values to be. So hopefully you can see our values throughout any interaction you've had with anyone from BDO, and they are being responsible and active with integrity, being genuine, being collaborative and being bold. And we really do care about these 4 values in everything that we do. So hopefully some of them will align to your own personal values as well. Just a breakdown of the streams. So just to give you a bit more of an insight about what we do here at BDO. So we have 3 main business streams, and they are tax, audit and advisory. So I'm just going to read through each of them now, just so you've got an idea of what each stream does. We also have a fantastic tool on our website that I'd encourage you all to have a look at after today's webinar. It's called the Match Me tool. It's on the main page of our careers site, and on there it's a bit like a quiz really. It asks you a few questions and it matches you to what you would most align to after you've answered those questions. So whether that's tax, audit or advisory. So if you are interested in making a future application, that's something I'd really encourage you all to do, just because it gives you an idea if you're not sure which business stream you do want to go down the route of. You can obviously take that quiz and it will tell you and just give you an idea. It doesn't mean you have to apply or have to go down that route, but it just gives you an idea of what you might be more aligned to with the things that you enjoy and your strengths. So our tax stream, if I just start with tax, our tax stream works with clients in a variety of sectors and locations to help them navigate the complicated and ever-changing tax landscape. From day-to-day compliance with the tax authorities, advice on employment taxation, transaction support for deals such as mergers and acquisitions, to managing the complex tax issues around international business deals, tax is a diverse and challenging area. So if you have heard of one of the streams, it's probably tax you have heard of, as that's our most popular stream in terms of what you might already know about tax before looking into BDO. Audit is our largest stream here at BDO and focuses on helping audited entities and clients to understand their own financial performance. So we check their financial statements are accurate and in compliance with applicable reporting standards. So that's it in a nutshell, audit. But working in audit is an opportunity to build a strong technical foundation in accountancy and finance whilst gaining vital business and commercial skills. The advisory stream helps our clients meet businesses and challenges and help our businesses grow. So this could be assisting companies to expand by buying new businesses, floating on the stock exchange, or extracting value by selling them. So it could also be helping to manage risk or working with the businesses that have run into financial difficulties to stabilise and restructure. Advisory also supply digital services, accounting, business advisories, outsourcing and compliance services within the UK and around the globe. So as you can see, the advisory stream incorporates lots of different things, but it gives clients access to a far range of expertise, technology, information and resources that most in-house teams can offer or can't offer, and it provides the flexibility and competitiveness they need to succeed. Next slide. I think I'm handing over to you now, Kirsty.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is just a bit of an overview of our programme. So obviously, hopefully a lot of you on the call here today are interested in obviously what we have to offer when it comes to our early careers programme. So just to start off with, we've got our school leaver apprenticeship programme. So this is a 4-year programme. Obviously, it's a great opportunity if you are looking to kind of get that real life experience straight out of school. You'll obviously get a recognised professional qualification with that. And it will also be obviously available to students who have not yet completed their university degree. You'll see about the minimum requirements. So to be eligible to apply to that programme, you'll need to have achieved 3 A levels or equivalent at A star to C. And then you'll see there obviously about your maths and English at GCSE as well, which I guess is pretty standard, and you'll see that across all of our programmes that we offer. And then leading on to our graduate programme. So this is obviously a structured programme that goes across 3 years. Again, you'll get your professional qualification in whatever kind of discipline that you've chosen to apply for, so whether that's tax, whatever it might be, and this route will obviously be available to recent graduates. There is a lot more kind of information obviously on all of our programmes and things on our website, which we really encourage people to go and have a look at. And obviously, like Lucy just said, you can also use that tool as well if you're not quite sure what area you want to apply to or what's right for you. It's a great opportunity to kind of showcase that by doing the little kind of not a test but like quiz, like Lucy said, that we offer. Again, the minimum requirements for that is you need to have a 2-2 degree, 3 A levels or equivalent at A star to C, and again the maths and English at GCSE or equivalent. And then leading into our industrial placements. So this is a 12-month programme. So again, great opportunity to kind of get some real life work experience, really understanding what it is to work at BDO and just kind of have that full-time job really, and kind of hopefully something that you're really passionate about. So to be eligible to apply for this, you need to be in your 2nd year of an undergraduate course at university, and obviously you'll be completing the placement in your 3rd year. You'll go back to university, and obviously then you'd return with as a graduate is essentially what it is. So it kind of says what it is, does on the tin there. But again, a lot more information around all of our programmes and things can be found online. And obviously, please do drop any questions that you've got about eligibility or what that might entail in the chat box now, so we can answer at the end with our trainees that are on online as well. So to be eligible to apply for this, you need to have a predicted 2-2 degree in any discipline. So a lot of people tend to ask, you know, do I need to have a maths, to be studying maths, or have a real key interest in finance and all that sort of thing? But we do look at degrees from any discipline, so please don't be put off applying. Obviously, it's great for us to have a really diverse workforce, and we don't want a cohort of everybody with the exact same degree and the exact same skill set, as it just wouldn't work. So yeah, please don't be put off applying applying if you're not studying in that discipline at the moment. So with that as well, you'll obviously need 3 A levels or equivalent at A star to C, and then again the maths and English at GCSE. Appreciate I've said that a few times, but just so everyone is aware obviously of what the eligibility criteria is for each of those. They were like our main sort of, I guess, early in career programs where you'd kind of be with us longer term and get your qualification, and obviously a kind of role with us. But when it comes to sort of more of our insight programs and summer programs, we do offer these as well. So again, really good opportunity if you just want to kind of get a bit of a taster into kind of life at BDO. So we've got an Explore BDO program. So currently this is a 3-day insight program. Obviously with COVID restrictions and things like that, that's all been done virtually, but obviously really keen to kind of see how we can take that forward now. So obviously for next year it might look slightly different, but at the moment it is a 3-day insight program that happens virtually, and it's aimed at year 11 and 12 students who meet our social mobility criteria. So something that we're really passionate about here at BDO. I'm actually part of the D&I team here in our early careers team. It's something we're really passionate about. So it's a great opportunity for those students to obviously come in and get that real life experience and that exposure that they might not get elsewhere. So for eligibility for that, obviously it's just those in the relevant year of study, and obviously there's the opportunity there to also secure a fast track onto our summer internship program as well. And then moving on to our Black Heritage Insight program. So again, this at the moment, this is a 3-day virtual program. Potentially could change, fingers crossed, but it's created basically to target students of a Black heritage in their first year of a 3-year course or second year of a 4-year course. Again, something obviously that is really important to us here at BDO is that diversity and inclusion piece. Candidates can be offered a fast track onto our Insight Week and also offered a paid brand ambassador role. So brand ambassador role, if obviously anybody on the call isn't quite sure what that is, it's a great opportunity for you to kind of go out on campus and represent BDO over the campus season, and we partner with a company called Sanctuary Graduates, so you get lots of support from them, but also lots of support from us here at BDO as well, and that's a paid role as well, so there's an incentive there. But it's just a great opportunity for anyone who is interested to kind of go out there, build up their networks, get a bit more comfortable with public speaking, all some really good key skills that you'll want to be kind of developing as you go through your career as well. So that's something that we advertise, and if it's something you're interested in, obviously applications are closed this year and we've got some great brand ambassadors in post, but for next year definitely keep your eyes peeled. And then with regards to our summer internship, so this is a 6-week summer internship, so and obviously spend 6 weeks in your chosen office, in whatever team you've obviously been successful in, and it's aimed at students in their penultimate year looking to secure a full-time role. So the purpose of an internship is obviously, like we say, giving you an opportunity to get that real life experience, you know, working full-time. You know, I'm sure we can all agree it's definitely a shock to the system when you first start doing it, so it's a real good taster for you. Obviously you'll get to know people at BDO and work with, get some client work and things like that in obviously some areas to an extent. So great opportunity if you want that kind of try before you buy. You know, it's got to be right for both sides ultimately. And then those who are successful and complete the program could be offered a role to join the graduate program once they've kind of completed their education, obviously met those kind of eligibility criteria that we touched on in the previous slide. So yeah, there'll always be kind of end of internship interview. So yeah, great opportunity there. And then just touching on the application process. So to apply for our main programs, that was the first slide, you'll need to complete an online application form. So when you complete the online application form, obviously that's then reviewed, and if you hit obviously our criteria, you'll then be invited to complete an online kind of test and also a video interview, the Hypo-I, and this lasts around 4 to 5 minutes. So you'll basically be asked questions and have to answer them on video within that time frame, and then obviously that's then all scored and reviewed, and then if you are successful after that stage of the process, you'd then be invited to complete a virtual assessment centre. So we have two parts to this. So for our graduate and school leaver positions, you'll complete your virtual assessment centre, which will be made up of a case study and group exercise, which I kind of touch on a bit towards the end about what to kind of really expect at our assessment centres, so I won't go into too much detail now. And then if you're successful after and you'll also network with some trainees as well for about 20 minutes, half an hour. And then once you're successful from that, you'd then be invited in to complete an in-person interview, which all happens within 5 working days of the assessment centre. So from that side of things, we are really keen to kind of get things moving. We don't like kind of leaving candidates waiting. You'll know from when you are invited to the assessment centre what your potential interview date is probably going to look like. It's all very kind of organised and thought out, which is obviously great. We do appreciate that. It's a really nerve-wracking time for a lot of students and candidates as well. And then obviously if you're successful at your interview, which fingers crossed, you'll then be made an offer for whatever role it is that you've applied for. And then obviously you'll go through the kind of onboarding process with us. The only difference is that if you are applying to one of our kind of internship programs or placements, then you will just complete a virtual assessment centre. You won't be required to come in and do an in-person interview. There will be obviously an interview element, but you won't be required to sort of come into the office like you say you would if you're applying to our graduate and school leaver programs. But the same applies obviously then once you've had your virtual assessment centre. We obviously really do aim to get back to candidates as soon as possible to give them their outcome. Obviously if you're made an offer, you'll go for the same onboarding process as you would for the other programs as well. Okay, I'm just going to pass back on to Lucy.
Thank you. So we just want to give you some top tips for the online application form that Kirsty's just mentioned. So before making an application, and here at BDO, you'll be pleased to know the applications are nice and short. So we make sure every year we review our application form, and we want to make it as short as possible. We understand that you have a lot on, if you're at uni, you've got a lot of uni work on, plus trying to make applications for multiple firms. So, and plus keeping up with your hobbies and extra work that you have on. So please don't worry, application forms are nice and short here at BDO. We're just asking for those essential bits of information that we need about yourselves. Before applying to any firm, not just BDO, always ensure that you meet the entry requirements, because applications do take time, as we know, and if you don't meet the entry requirements, most firms will automatically reject your application. So do check that you definitely meet those eligibility requirements before you apply, just to save your time on the application. If you're unsure if you meet those eligibility requirements, then always contact the company to ask, or check out the FAQs on our website as well if you're unsure whether you meet ours or not. And I have seen some questions that we've had come through I have answered, so if you do have anything else, let me know. Always attach updated CV to application form, so check and double check that it is the right CV. So we've had on multiple occasions candidates attach CVs that are out of date, that don't have the correct phone number on there, that might have a typo in the email address. So always check and double check your CV before submitting it onto your application, because that could be how the recruiter contacts you for the role. And if your contact details are incorrect, or your experience isn't up to date, for example, you could be rejected for that role when actually they could be wanting to contact you. And number 3 is complete all sections of the form. So especially on our application form, as an example, we always have mandatory fields and optional fields. So do make sure that you're checking which are the mandatory fields and completing with as much detail as possible. This will ensure that the recruitment team has everything they need to progress your application. So if there's bits that are missing or some vital information that you've missed out, you'll have to be contacted, which can cause delays to your application. So just double check again that all the sections on the application have been completed. And number 4 is check spelling and grammar. So Spelling and grammar is really important with application forms and CVs, so just use the tools that are available out there, like spell check. If you need to put your application form into Word and then you put it into onto the application form just to do spell check, then that's absolutely fine. Just take your time just to check your spelling and grammar. Here at BDO, we don't actually ask any questions in our application form. So we don't ask questions like, why do you want to work at BDO? We save all that for the video interview and the assessment centre. So spelling and grammar, we shouldn't really come into it too much with our application form, but it's always one to check, especially typos. And then moving on to the online assessment. So this slide just breaks down what our online assessment is made up of. So once you have completed the application form, if you meet our eligibility requirements, you are invited straight to take the online assessment. So our online assessment takes around 45 minutes to complete, and it's all done in one sitting. So there's a two parts of it, which is the hyperwire, which I'll talk through in a moment, and the video interview. So the hyperwire is a mixture of numerical, verbal and behavioural questions. So a lot of firms will do pretty similar online assessments, but all of them will be different. Some might be using gamification, some might be using telephone interview instead of video interview. So it's always recommended that you research what the application process is for that firm that you're applying to. So good job you're all here, because you're finding out firsthand what our application process is. But we really recommend taking some time to research each of the online assessments, just so you can be prepared as well as you can, really. So ours is interactive and engaging. As I said, it takes around 45 minutes to complete, but it is not timed. So this is to take the pressure off. So if you need a break in between taking the online assessment, which was called the hyperwire, and the video interview, that's absolutely fine. You are not timed for how long it takes for you to complete the assessment. So we do encourage you actually to take breaks once you finish the hyperwire section, just to get that energy back up, ready to do the video interview. Our hyperwire assessment provides a realistic insight into the workplace, so that it will ask you questions and you can picture yourself in the role. So it will ask you behavioural questions. For example, your manager's asked you to complete a task, but the deadline's fast approaching and you've got lots of work on. What would you do? And it will give you 4 scenarios, and you would have to say what you're most likely to do and what you're least likely to do. So that's an example of what we mean by providing a realistic experience into the workplace, or realistic insight into the workplace even. After completing the test, you will be sent an automatic feedback report. So this helps you develop. So we are really keen on developing self and others here at BDO. It's one of our competencies that we're assessed on, and we are really big with giving feedback here. So we want to make sure that you get the same experience as a candidate to the firm. The second part is the video interview. So again, this is real life scenarios. It's 4 questions here, and you're asked a series of questions, some being future focused questions and some being motivational. So it tests a candidate's knowledge of BDO and what research you've done into BDO. So always be prepared for a video interview. You're always going to be asked something to do with that company, something to do with your motivations to work there. So always do your research on the firm before doing that video interview. And it also tests candidate knowledge of the service line or stream that you've applied to. So for example, the 3 streams that we just spoke about, audit, tax and advisory, part of the motivational part as well will also be asking what interests you in that role. So make sure you understand which role you've applied to and what exactly that role entails. Answers for the video interview can be 2 minutes long, and they are recorded. So we know that it can feel a bit awkward at times recording yourself and speaking to someone that is not necessarily there, like speaking into your laptop, but we really encourage you to practice. As uncomfortable as it can feel, practice makes perfect with these things. So practice recording yourself on your phone with your video on, practicing, seeing how your how clear and concise do you come across? Have you got a suitable background for the video interview? Are you in a quiet room? And those sorts of things can really help support you take that video interview. So that is an overview of the online assessment here at BDO. What I would also say is always make a note of the deadlines for the online test. So here we give 10 days to complete the online tests when you're first invited. So make sure you're writing down or recording somewhere, however you work best, when that deadline is going to expire. So if you know you've applied to a company on today, for example, and you're sent the online test and you're told that you've got 10 days, make a note that you've made that application and when that deadline expires, because we often find that those that leave it to the last minute do feel the pressure more and therefore may not be as likely to pass because you're rushing through, you're not taking your time, you haven't taken the time to practice because you've left it to the last day and you're feeling that pressure towards the deadline. So do leave yourself enough time to complete the test and to do your research and to do the practice before. Just moving on to the next slide, conscious of time. So here at BDO, our strategy is helping us to exceed. So helping business succeed, society succeed, and also our people. So that includes you as a candidate. So this just breaks down what I was talking about on the HyperWire assessment. So the online test part of the assessment. So 3 sections, so numerical and verbal and behavioural intellect. So you can see on the screen here some points around each of those areas, but numerical is what it says in the title. So the questions are based around GCSE maths. So we're not asking you to have A-level or even higher knowledge, maths knowledge. We're just looking for that GCSE level. For example, percentages and ratios. We recommend having a calculator and paper and pen or a notes page on your laptop for workings out. And you're asked to identify the information needed to answer the specific question asked, and do double check all your answers before submitting, as the assessment is not timed and questions cannot be revisited once you've submitted and moved on to the next one. The verbal part is really important because you must read the questions and details provided carefully. So in these scenarios, you'll be provided with a piece of information and then you'll be asked a question on that information. So make sure you read the question thoroughly, read the answers or the multiple choice answers thoroughly before you answer. It's really important you review all the information before picking the most appropriate response, and don't make assumptions. Oh, sorry, my screen's going funny now. Don't make assumptions on the information provided. And then behavioural intellect. So it was the example I just gave where you're selecting the most likely and least likely response. But again, review all the information, review information about BDO, as that might be what you're asked about, for example, our values, and think about the most appropriate response in a professional environment like ours. So really picture yourself in that role and what would you do if you were in that role that you're applying to. Next slide. So some top tips for the video interview. So I did go into these slightly on the other slide, but we really encourage you to practice, as I said. Look at the camera, give eye contact to the camera as if you are talking to someone. So here at BDO, we don't use AI or anything to review our video interviews. We do use humans and they are real people. So look into the camera as if you're talking to them and pretend that you are being scored by them live, just to help you give that eye contact and to help you structure your answers, really. To answer the questions, so here at BDO, you'll be asked the question. You then have time to prepare for that question, and then you're given 2 minutes to record your response. So really use that time to answer the question. Write notes if you need to. Use the prompts always. I always recommend using the prompts because they're really handy for you to answer the question, because that is what you're going to be scored on. Using the STAR technique will help you as well. So you might have heard of this before, but what STAR stands for is situation. So set the scene and give the necessary details for your example. So always use examples where you can. Think of some examples that you might be able to use for multiple different questions, whether that's something you've done at school or college or uni, or something you've done in your extracurricular activities. We don't mind. It doesn't have to be a work example. We're not expecting any of our candidates to have previous work experience, so don't worry if your example doesn't cover anything to do with work or a career. The T in STAR stands for task, so describe what your responsibility was in that situation. A stands for action, so explain exactly what steps you took to address it. This will help you give a step-by-step answer with your example. R stands for result, so share what outcomes your actions achieved. Using the STAR technique will really help you follow that structured response. And then finally, what I've just spoke about was the motivations to join the firm and the team. Do have a think about what your motivations are to join BDO or to join the firm, and the team as well that you're applying to, or the stream, because that will really help you stand out from other candidates when you're motivated for the role. Back to you, Kirsty.
Thank you. So with regards to our assessment centres, just to give everybody on the call a bit of an overview of kind of what to expect when it comes to that part of the process. So obviously this will be once you've kind of passed all your online screening and obviously the tests and things that Lucy's just kind of gone into a bit of detail around. So you'll be invited to your assessment centre, and then you'll be asked to attend a pre-assessment centre call. So you get lots of support from the outset, and these pre-assessment centre calls are basically with one of the advisors. So one of myself will go through sort of what to expect on the day, what kind of preparation you can be doing, a bit like Lucy's just gone through some key hints and tips, really supporting you with, setting you up for success basically to attend that assessment centre and feel really confident in your abilities. You will have been briefed thoroughly, and then you'll also have obviously had the chance to ask some questions and things like that. So once you've attended your pre-assessment centre call, you then obviously attend your online assessment centre again. We send you sort of videos and stuff like that on step by step on how you log onto the platform and how you use it, so you're not just kind of logging onto a system that you're not familiar with. We really don't want candidates joining an assessment centre feeling nervous about their tech and all that sort of stuff. So all of that's in place. Once you obviously join your online assessment centre, you'll then proceed to do your case study, and then obviously your group exercise. So our assessment centres start about 9:30, and then they'll be wrapped up by around, I think it's just after 1:30, kind of all in all. So you'll be spending the full morning with us. Obviously you'll get breaks and things like that, and like we say, you'll also have some networking in the middle of that as well, which is normally with some trainees from that business area. So again, you'll kind of get a real opportunity to sort of ask any questions that you've got and get a good insight into what life is like at BDO. And then kind of like we touched on, obviously after your assessment centre, we know how important it is for candidates to get their outcomes as soon as possible, and obviously moving on to that next stage. Obviously either you haven't been successful on this occasion, or you have been successful, and we'd obviously then look to kind of progress you to that interview stage, like we said, if you're applying to the school leaver and graduate positions. So that's just a real brief overview of the assessment centre. Obviously we've gone through a lot of kind of hints and tips on how you can succeed at each stage as well. We do have some trainees on the call with us, so I'm just going to get them to introduce themselves, kind of tell you all a bit about what they're doing, kind of their journey at BDO so far, so you guys can get an insight, and then we'll sort of go into a few of the questions in the chat box afterwards. So Alexandra, could you go first and then just kind of go around the virtual room afterwards, please, and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Alexandra. I'm based in the Southeast office. So this is actually split between two locations, or hubs as we call them earlier, which is Gatwick and Guildford, and also a little bit in the Baker Street office, which is the London office. So my sort of career progression, so I actually first joined BDO doing a summer internship, which I applied for in my penultimate year of uni. However, this did take place in 2020. So as you can understand, it's probably quite different to how it would be now. So that was reduced to a week and it was purely online. But it still gave me a really good insight into the business. And from there, I was given the interview and accepted for a graduate role. I also worked as a brand ambassador in my final year of uni, which was spoken about earlier. So happy to sort of answer any questions about that. But that was a lot of sort of, again, COVID, there weren't that many in-person events, but it was sort of encouraging people to attend sort of events like this, mostly aimed at uni students. And as was mentioned earlier, I did get paid, and as a student, you know, every little bit of money helps. And it was also quite nice. I met some other people who are working as brand ambassadors at other unis, so that was great. So then I joined as a graduate in 2021. So I'm in the corporation tax stream. So where I work in one of the smaller offices, the regional offices, my role is quite broad, which is different to some of the large offices, I believe. So I do quite a general role, but I really enjoy it because it means I get to try lots of different areas of tax. Whereas if, say, you're in the London office, it tends to be more specialised, but it's all sort of personal preference. So I'm now going into my third year at BDO, so my final year of exams, and I am, I believe, 14 exams down and 3 left to go, so nearly there. But and sort of now kind of in that transition period where I'm sort of learning to manage my clients more, which is, you know, really good, but also, you know, I've been supported a lot in that, and I've been working for 2 years. It's not sort of something they expect from you straight away. But I'll hand over to Alex now, and he can talk more about his role.
Hi, hopefully you can all hear me. So I'm Alex. I'm in the business tax stream at Nottingham office. I did physics and maths at university, so to the point I think it was Kirsty mentioned earlier, you don't have to do something directly relevant to the job you apply for at BDO. For me, when I was at university, I just wanted something that I wanted to step away from what I was doing, but I wanted something where I could transfer my skills into that kind of into that line of work, and I thought tax would be a good opportunity to do that because it helped kind of hone the it would allow me to hone the problem solving mindset that I had garnered during my time at university. So if you go on to take the tax graduate scheme at BDO, you'll study towards the CTA, which is a very valuable qualification, the Chartered Tax Advisor qualification, if you're unaware. One thing that's nice about BDO with respect to professional, well, in the tax stream specifically, with respect to the professional qualification, is that our training is carried out internally. So that could, you know, perhaps be a benefit because as opposed to having to go, you know, to a separate college where lots of firms will be sending their graduates, we just have tutors who are, you know, bespoke to us, and which means that, you know, easily on hand for us if we have any queries with regards to the learning that we do towards our professional qualifications. So with respect to, I've only been at BDO for 2 months, but in that 2 months, I've already started on client work. So in the tax stream, where there are lots of different kind of sub-streams, we call them. So I said I'm in business tax, but there's also private client services, mergers and acquisitions, and lots of other areas you can look into. I was placed into business tax, but I think if you have a preference and you express it before you join, once you've landed the job, I think every effort is made to put you into that stream if you do have a preference. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I think that's how it works. But then within the tax stream, we kind of have two main kind of lines of work, if you like. We have compliance and advisory. So compliance is what it says, really. It's making sure that, you know, in my case, business will come to us and we'll be making sure that their tax affairs are in order, and when we submit their return, everything's declared and above board with HMRC. Advisory, I've done less advisory work because when you start, you'll probably start more on compliance because it's just what you're able to do. I can't really give tax advice to businesses yet, not being anything like an expert. But I have had a little kind of dabble into advisory work. And yeah, it's quite useful when you do get into advisory work as a graduate because it kind of, for the bits I've done, has really made me confront like the actual kind of tax legislation and help me to understand it better whilst on the job. So yeah, it's a really positive kind of first 2 months where you're given responsibility early on, but obviously in proportion with what you can manage, and it's well supported along the way. One thing I've found at BDO so far is that if I've had any queries or questions that I've wanted to raise, from partner all the way down to junior, everyone around me has been willing to help any questions I've had to ask. So it's a really positive environment to work in. And I think that covers pretty much everything I wanted to say. So I'll pass you over to John. There we go.
Hi everyone, it's lovely to meet you all. My name is Jun and I am currently an audit graduate in the Nottingham office. So I share the same office with Alex, which is why we're currently using the same laptop on this call. A little bit of background about myself. So I studied accounting and finance at university, so very much on brand, knowing kind of what I wanted to do. And I did do my research as well on the various firms I could have joined. There was Big Four, there was other mid-tier firms as well. And I chose BDO mainly because I did a lot of research into it, and I found that the BDO was really proud of the different culture. I even watched a targetjobs webinar actually about why certain professionals chose BDO over other firms, and what they said about culture and what they said about how it was working day to day in the firm really resonated with me and prompted me to make an application. So in terms of my day-to-day job, at the moment, I am doing lots of different types of audit, but at the moment I'm working on a university, so public sector, and it's really, really interesting to see how different it is from perhaps a more corporate kind of audit. In the Midlands, we work closely with the Birmingham office as well, and a lot of the companies we look at are manufacturing companies. So it's really great to have a wide variety of audits to look at to gain basically as much experience as I can in different types of audit. In terms of what I study for while doing my qualification, it's the ACA. At the moment, I've actually done 3 exams already, and I have a few exemptions as well that can count towards that. So I'm currently 7 out of 15 exams, I believe. But every year there's a requirement to take exams, and it's all about balancing between having a working life, but also having time to study for exams and for social life as well. But before you get to that stage, obviously, there is the application process to kind of get over it. And I think a top tip I would give to people in terms of doing really well in the application process would be to research as much as you can about the firm that you're going into. So for BDO, I took a look at their annual reports, for example, their culture reports, their transparency reports, even the FAQ page on their career site. So there's loads and loads of information you can find online that you think could help your application. And I believe it helped mine. It helped me to personalize my answers and help me create an answer that related to the company more. So yeah, that's basically it. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. We've had quite a few questions come in, and I know we've mainly been answering them as best we can, but obviously please do pop any more questions you have in the chat. I've just seen that one's come through. So a question from Jess is, and I'll aim this at you guys for the trainees to answer, but how difficult is it to balance work and studying, so that work-life balance?
I guess I'll answer first. So, I mean, no one's going to lie to you and say it's easy, because the exams aren't easy. That's why it's sort of an accredited qualification, but it's definitely more than doable. it's, say in my office, for example, it's actually quite rare that people have failed exams because BDO are really good at giving a lot of support with your exams. My sort of top tip, which is what I say to a lot of the people that have joined recently, is to sort of, schedule in that time. So a lot of people prefer to do it before work, so get up early, maybe do a couple of hours so that then they can have their evenings to themselves. I personally, I'm really into my exercise, so I tend to do that before work. So I actually prefer to do my study after work, but it's all personal preference. But as I say to everyone, it's also so important to give yourself that time off, and to take well-earned, breaks. I'll only do, say, on a Saturday, Sunday, just do a half day and go see my friends, go, I don't know, eat some good food, whatever I want to do that's gonna keep me going, because it's hard work, but it is definitely worth it and definitely doable.
To add on to what Alexandra said as well, I think it is hard work, but at the same time, it's really important to have discipline. So having the urge to study after work isn't the best or the easiest thing to do, but it's all about sticking to your routine and sticking to maybe a timetable you've created in order to make sure you're putting in the hours every day, because it does add up, and doing a little bit every day can be really useful in the long term, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just about. I'd recommend as soon as you start. We're both only 2 months in ourselves, but one thing I've focused on is just trying to put in good habits early on. So I don't want to be leaving everything to the last minute, or thinking on CTA my first big exam, if you like, isn't until next November. But I'm trying to forget that and just make sure that I'm doing little bits of work and often. So that when it comes to that time next year, I'm not rushing to try and manage my work responsibilities and also my studying responsibilities.
Perfect, thank you. We did have a question a bit earlier, which I guess is a bit hard for us to type out, just regarding kind of red flags throughout the application process and recruitment process. I wouldn't necessarily like to call them red flags as such, but I think it's just kind of everything that we've sort of touched on, in the sense of, when you are applying, like we say, research is key. It is a competitive process, and I think especially kind of the further on you get into the process, obviously when you're having say your kind of group exercise, you're interviewing, you're having to have sort of those real life conversations. It does come across quite quickly, the candidates who have researched and do have good knowledge of BDO or have been kind of working on their commercial awareness skills, than the ones that haven't. So I think it's just obviously taking the hints and tips that we said and just kind of working on them as much as possible. I think Lucy said, again, wouldn't like to call it a red flag as such, but when you're doing your application form, just ensuring that your spelling and grammar is accurate. You're making sure that you're obviously it kind of reads well. You've got to think, obviously, when you're applying to anywhere, how you're going to communicate your written or verbal communication when you're actually in the job. So just being in that mindset from the start will really help you. But yeah, I think just the key is just to kind of take away our tips and just kind of build upon them as best you can, really. And then another question we had through was just around a bit more about tax. I think I'm just trying to find it now, sorry, because there is quite a few, but
I'll answer that question that came through to me, but Alexandra and Alex, you might be able to add to it. But what I meant by that, I think it was David who had the question from, so thanks, David. It was just that you've probably heard about tax, is what I meant, because of tax returns. If you've got a part-time job, you might already pay tax. So that is one of the streams that some of our candidates have already heard about. So that's just what I meant by it was a more popular choice in terms of when you look at the application form. But we do have a question from Talia, which is a great one. If we could put that to our trainees, is how much autonomy do graduates get with working on different projects? So, Alexandra, do you want to go first, as you've been here the longest?
Yeah, so I actually had this question come up recently, and I can only comment on sort of my stream and my office, but I have actually had instances where I've been able to go to more senior members and so sort of say, I'm really enjoying this type of work, can I do more of it? And to date, I've not actually had anyone say no. So I definitely say there is, some flexibility in that. And you don't even have to be sort of senior level. I think even in my first year, I sort of said, oh, I really like fashion. Are there any clients we have that to do with that? And they're like, oh yeah, we have this one, you can be on it. And then now I'm sort of progressing more in my career. I'm sort of learning the areas that I enjoy more than the others. So last year I did quite a lot of not-for-profit tax, which is mostly charities. Again, that was through me asking. This year I've taken more of an interest in real estate, so I'm doing more of that. But I sort of say to people, don't ask, don't get. Like the worst thing that can happen is they might be like, oh, there's not anything right now, but we'll definitely keep you in mind. Because you have to remember the people that work here, they want to see you do the best you can. They want to help you as much as they can. So if there's something that you're interested in, they're going to want to help develop that.
Sorry, just to add on to that as well. Obviously, I've just started quite recently. So in terms of autonomy, it's more about whether I need it or not. And obviously, as a new starter, I found that having support is really, really key in order to build my foundation, because it's a lot about learning how to do certain things at a different firm, learning about what the audit process is. So in terms of audit, I think it's a lot of, it depends on who you're working for and who you're working with, but it's as much autonomy as you would like it to be, I'd say, and it's as much support as you need as well, for audit at least.
Yeah, and I think from my experience, I again, being only 2 months in, but I've had discussions with my manager where he's kind of like asked, I've spoke about some work that I've done. He's asked a question saying, "Oh, do you like this kind of stuff?" And obviously, I'm still at the kind of stage where I'm trying to just get a good experience of everything, and then find out what I would like to do further down the line. But that question's already been raised, and I think from very early on, you can expect to see you pushing in the kind of direction or type of work that you want to be doing. So yeah, I think it gives plenty of autonomy. Yeah.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? We have got about 7 minutes left, so more than happy to answer some more if you just want to pop them in the chat box. If not, I might have to think of a question to ask the trainees.
I've got one. Oh, it looks like David's got one. But whilst we wait for David to type his question in, if you guys could just cast your mind back to when you applied, and Alexandra, for you, it probably feels like years and years and years ago. Or for all of you, it probably does. But do you have any tips or any words of wisdom, basically, you want to pass on to our audience today if anyone is thinking about making an application?
I think just with respect to, I think we were just talking about the group exercise or something a minute ago. I had a lot of questions about that when I've done several university careers fairs over the last couple of weeks, and a lot of people are asking about the group exercise. And I think one thing I tried to keep in mind when I was doing it was, just try and say enough. Don't feel pressure to say too much, and don't feel as though when you do it, because you're going to get given a piece of information that's probably different from what the rest of your group's seen. Don't feel as though your point has to win. You want to kind of show that you can work as part of a team. I think that's what we're really looking for, more so than being the loudest person in the room. You want to demonstrate that you can facilitate others working well with you, not just pushing for your own agenda. I think that's an important one.
Yeah, I think to add on to kind of what you can do personally, I think it's really important to be the best version of yourself. So aligning with the be yourself kind of value, but also be the best version that you can. Be interactive, be just being as good as you can be, really.
Amazing. Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Alexandra.
I'll also just add, that's a really good point Alex said, but also I'd sort of say once you get to the group interview and the solo interview, I think at that point you've sort of demonstrated that you have the sort of intellectual ability to work here, and then they kind of just want to see what you're actually like as a person. So I'd honestly say just be yourself. Like my interview for the grad role, it honestly didn't feel like an interview, it felt like a chat. It was with one of the partners in my team who I now work with, but she was just sort of asking me, you know, how do you manage your time? How would you react to certain situations? So I say just don't sort of stress about it. Don't overthink it. Honestly, just be yourself. And yeah.
Yeah, that's really great advice, Alexandra. Thank you. Yeah, we've kind of touched on at BDO, we really encourage everyone to be like their true authentic self every day. So definitely don't come to the assessment centre process being somebody that you're not, because ultimately, yeah, we don't want people doing that. You know, it's got to be the right fit for you as much as it does for us. So yeah, that's some real great advice there. Thank you. We have had a question just around sort of what support new hires get, and I think that's really important, because I appreciate, obviously, when you're starting out in your career, it can be quite nerve-wracking. So I guess, guys, you on the call, maybe you can just go into a bit of detail around maybe what support you guys have had since joining BDO. I mean, I know obviously from when you do join, obviously you'll get assigned a buddy, so they'll be there to obviously support you. You'll have your people manager as well. Obviously you'll also have, we have this other dedicated professional qualifications team who are really, really supportive and helpful when it comes to sort of anything around your kind of qualification and what that plan's going to look like. And obviously, yeah, you've got the kind of wider early in careers team, and obviously lots of things in our like benefits and packages as well that obviously people can select each year and things. But I guess, do you guys want to go into a bit more detail specifically on what maybe support that you guys have had since you joined?
I suppose I can mention quickly, like with respect to support as well, it's quite proactive. Like for example, yesterday I had a it was called a triennial success meeting, and it was with my people manager and one of the partners, and they were basically just asking me. The whole basis of the meeting was just to say, is there anything else we can do for you? Is there anything we can put in place to help you? So, I feel like most things have been put in place for me that I've needed so far. I've not felt the need to have to go and ask for more support in any particular area. I don't feel as though I would struggle to get it if I needed it, because like I said, those things are put in place to catch any issues early on and help you put it right. So yeah, I think there's a good proactive approach to support.
Not really, just reiterating Kirsty's point that you do get a buddy and you have a people manager as well, and they're really great first point of contacts for you. And if they have, if you have an issue that they can't really help with, they're more than happy to redirect you to maybe the professional qualifications team or some other team that's more of an expert in the issue. But yeah, definitely loads of support, even from people around you, the people you work with.
Yeah, so following on from that, so now obviously I've worked here 2 years. I have 2 buddies that I sort of mentor now, and I still have a buddy above me. So it's not just in your first year. That's something that continues, I think, throughout your apprenticeship or school leaver scheme. And also, it sort of goes without saying, but just because you have sort of your buddy, your line manager, that doesn't mean those are the only people you can go to for help. So I know, for example, in my office, I can ask another manager, say if I have a question on a client, but they're not on that client, they will still offer me the help. Like everyone is more than happy to help. So yeah, it's a really great environment to learn in.
Perfect. I think, to be honest, we're like bang on time as it is turning 3 p.m. now. I think we've done our best to kind of answer any kind of questions that have come through on the chat box. But obviously, we can pop our email in response to one of these questions as well. Obviously, if you do have any questions that weren't answered that you'd like to ask kind of before making an application following on from today, you can do. But yeah, I think that's kind of everything from me. I hope obviously everybody on the call has found this really insightful and helpful, and obviously we really hope that you'll decide to make an application to us now or in the future. And yeah, I think that's I don't know if anyone else has got anything to add, but I think that's everything from me.
No, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you guys for your input and your answers to your questions there. So thank you everyone, and hope everyone has a lovely afternoon.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.